She went to the village for NYSC, but found love in the arms of a poor headmaster with an old bicycle. Who would believe a rich man's daughter could fall for a village headmaster? The sun was fierce that afternoon when Amarachi Okri, daughter of billionaire business tycoon Chief Ferdinand Okri, arrived at Umozola village for her NYSC posting. Her father had tried everything to change her posting, made calls, pulled strings, even offered money, but for the first time in his life, his influence failed. Amarachi, who had studied international relations at one of the most expensive universities in Nigeria, arrived in the small village in designer clothes, a gold wristwatch glistening on her wrist, and a faint frown on her face as she stepped down from the air-conditioned Prado Jeep. Her phone barely had a signal. The air smelled of smoke and palm wine. Children chased one another barefoot. Chickens ran across the dusty road. That was where she first saw Mr. Eziobi, the headmaster of community primary school, Umozola. He was in his late 30s, tall, dark, with kind eyes and a calm smile that seemed to hold a story. His trousers were neatly ironed, though old. His only means of transportation was a squeaky black bicycle that had survived better days. When he saw Amarachi struggling with her luggage, he quickly dropped his bicycle and rushed to help her. "Good afternoon, Copper," he said with a respectful nod. "Good afternoon," Amarachi replied coldly, dusting her jeans. "Are you the driver?" "No, I'm the headmaster," he said with a gentle smile. "Welcome to Umozola." Amarachi froze. The headmaster. This man. With this bicycle. That day marked the beginning of a story neither of them expected, a story that would challenge her pride, test his patience, and prove that love sometimes rides an old bicycle into a rich girl's heart. The first week in Umozola was like a nightmare for Amarachi Okri. She hated everything, the dusty roads, the noisy generator behind her lodge, the smell of firewood, and most especially, the tiny community school where she was posted to teach. The school building looked like something from another century, cracked walls, broken desks, and children who came to class without shoes. She couldn't believe she left her father's mansion for this. Every morning, she arrived in high heels, carrying a designer handbag and wearing perfume worth more than the school's entire budget. The children stared at her like she had stepped out of a TV show. The headmaster, Mr. Eziobi, noticed her discomfort but said nothing. He only watched quietly, his bicycle parked under the mango tree, his shirt neatly tucked in, as he marked attendance with his old pen. One morning, Amarachi burst into his small office angrily. "Mr. Eziobi, this is too much. How can I teach without a board marker? How can pupils learn without books? This place is a joke." Eziobi looked up from his attendance sheet and smiled calmly. "You're right, Miss Amarachi. We lack a lot here. But sometimes, passion teaches more than materials." She scoffed. "Passion won't change poverty, sir." He chuckled softly. "Maybe not, but kindness might." That simple statement struck something deep in her heart. But she quickly brushed it off. That evening, as she walked home, she saw Eziobi riding his old bicycle along the road, children waving and shouting, "Headmaster! Headmaster!" He stopped to help an old woman carry her firewood. He smiled through it all, dust on his face, humility in his steps. Amarachi watched him quietly from afar. For the first time, she felt something strange, a quiet admiration mixed with confusion. The next morning, she came to school early, without makeup, without perfume, and in flat shoes. Eziobi noticed, but said nothing. Later that day, the heavens broke open and rain began to fall. Amarachi had no umbrella, and the road to her lodge was flooded. As she stood helplessly under the school veranda, Eziobi appeared, soaked but smiling, holding an old umbrella. "Copper Amarachi," he said gently, "you'll get drenched. Come, I'll drop you." "On your bicycle?" she asked, half amused, half shy. "Yes. It may be old, but it moves." He smiled, and somehow, she couldn't resist. She climbed behind him, clutching his shoulders as they rode slowly through the rain. The villagers watched and whispered. The rich copper and the humble headmaster, under one umbrella, on one old bicycle. And that was how love began to ride, slowly, quietly, through the muddy road of Umuozola. By the 3rd month of her NYSC, Amarachi had changed. The girl who once wore designer gowns to teach now tied her hair with Ankara scarf and laughed freely with the villagers. Every evening, after school closed, Mr. Eziobi would ride her home on his old black bicycle. The sight of the headmaster pedaling carefully through the dusty road with Amarachi sitting behind him, her hands gently holding his shoulders, became the talk of the village. Children would wave and shout, "Copper Amara! Headmaster Eziobi!" She would laugh, her hair flying in the evening breeze, while he smiled shyly, trying not to lose balance. It wasn't long before the whispers began, the rich copper and the village headmaster. News traveled faster than Harmattan wind, and soon it reached Chief Ferdinand Okari's mansion in Enugu. The chief was furious. His only daughter, the jewel of his empire, falling for a common village headmaster. Never. He called Amarachi that night. "Amara," his voice thundered through the phone, "I sent you there to serve, not to fall in love with a poor man on a bicycle. You are an Okari, not some farmer's daughter." "Daddy, please," she pleaded. "You don't know him. He's kind, respectful, and—" "Enough," he snapped. "End whatever nonsense you have with that man, or you will regret it." Tears burned her eyes as the line went dead. 2 days later, a black SUV drove into Umuozola. 3 hefty men in dark suits stepped out, her father's guards. They went straight to the school compound. Mr. Eziobi was marking pupils' notebooks when they entered. "Are you the headmaster?" one of them barked. "Yes," he said calmly, standing up. The tallest guard moved closer. "Stay away from Miss Amarachi Okri. She belongs to a world far above yours. If you don't, you'll regret ever knowing her." The classroom fell silent. Even the children froze. Mr. Eziobi looked at them quietly and said, "Tell Chief Okari that love is not a crime. I have never hurt his daughter, and I never will." The guard smirked. "You've been warned." When Amarachi heard what happened, she ran to him in tears. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't know they would come." He smiled sadly. "It's all right, Amarachi. Your father is protecting what he loves. But sometimes, parents forget that love isn't about control." Her heart broke. She wanted to hug him, but the world around them wouldn't allow it. That night, she lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how something so pure could cause so much pain. And somewhere in the quiet village, Mr. Eziobi sat beside his bicycle, his eyes glistening in the moonlight, torn between letting her go and fighting for the love that had changed his world. After the warning, everyone expected Mr. Eziobi to keep his distance from Amarachi. But he didn't. Instead, his love grew stronger, gentler, quieter, but deeper than ever. He still came to the copper's lodge every morning to check on her. He still carried her on his bicycle to school, making sure she didn't step on the muddy roads after the rain. "People are talking," she said one day, worry in her eyes. He smiled softly. "Let them talk. They don't know how I feel when you smile." She looked away, blushing. "You're not afraid of my father. I'm only afraid of losing you." That answer melted her completely. Days turned into weeks, and their bond became unbreakable. Amarachi began to understand the meaning of true happiness, the kind that didn't depend on wealth or luxury, but on peace, care, and honesty. But in Enugu, Chief Okari's anger had turned into rage. He couldn't believe that, after his warning, his daughter still dared to be seen with that village man. When one of his business partners showed him a photo of Amarachi on a bicycle with the headmaster, laughter in her eyes and love all over her face, he slammed his glass on the table. "This has gone too far," he shouted. If he won't stay away, I'll make sure he disappears from that village. 3 days later, police vans drove into Umuozola. The villagers gathered, murmuring in confusion as armed officers stepped out. They headed straight for the school. Mr. Eziobi, the officer in charge, barked. "Yes, officer," he answered calmly. "How may I help you?" "You are under arrest for harassing Miss Amarachi Okri. You're coming with us." The children screamed. Amarachi, who was teaching at that moment, ran out of her class. "What are you doing? He didn't harass me. He's innocent," she cried. "Stand back, copper," the officer ordered. Mr. Eziobi raised his hands. "It's okay, Amarachi. Don't fight them." Tears streamed down her face. "Please don't take him. He did nothing wrong." The villagers watched helplessly as the police pushed him into the van. His bicycle fell to the ground, the same bicycle that carried their love through dusty roads and quiet evenings. That night, Amarachi couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. Her heart felt like it was tearing apart. She called her father again, sobbing. "Daddy, why? Why did you do this?" "Because I love you," he said coldly. "And I won't let you throw your life away for a poor man. That man has more heart than all the rich men you know," she screamed. "You're destroying the only good thing that ever happened to me." She ended the call, shaking. And as thunder rolled across the night sky, Amarachi made a decision, one that would change her life forever.